Hi, welcome to Basic C++ Programming Language. In this session, I am going to discuss what is program, programming language, compiler versus interpreter, basic structure of C++ program with Hello World example. So let's get started. The set of instructions is called program. The communication which is established is going to be called as a language. The set of instructions to communicate with the device is going to be called as programming language. So before C++ was there, was a previous programming language. There was C, which is introduced by Dennis Ritchie. He was the American scientist. He created C++ program along with his colleague Ken Thompson in the year 1969 to 1973. Later, C++ was introduced by John Stroustrup in 1980s at Bell Laboratories. Later, in 1994, James Gosling has introduced Java. Later, Anders Hillsberg in 2004, he has introduced C# at Microsoft Corporation. So, before C++ was there, what was the programming language introduced? It was ALP, Assembly Language Program. So, in Assembly Language Program, we are directly programming to the machine. So we are going to call that particular language as a low level. That whatever we are going to type in assembly level language program, it is directly understood by the machine. So this particular C++ is a high level language which is not directly understood by the machine. It needs compiler. What is a compiler? It translates high level language program to hardware which is going to be understood by the computer. So it translates high level language. Basically C is similar to English language which can be easily programmed by anyone. It does not require any prior knowledge of the programming language. So to compile this particular C++ language, we need the compiler. In this complete sessions, I'll be using Microsoft Visual Studio 2013. It was introduced by Microsoft. So we'll be using Visual Studio 2013 to compile the C++ program. What is a compiler? It translates high-level language into the instructions that the hardware can execute. What is interpreter? Interpreter also converts the high-level language into machine instructions. And what the assembler is going to do? It is going to convert assembly level language program to machine language. Machine language is nothing but zeros and ones, which is going to be understood by the machine. So first compiler what it is doing? It is going to convert high level language to assembly level language programming. Assembler is going to convert ALP, assembly language program, to machine language. So coming to the differences between the interpreter and compiler. What is interpreter? Interpreter is going to translate the program one statement at a time, and compiler, it scans the entire program and translates it as a whole into the machine code. So interpreter is nothing but if particular 10 lines of code is there, in the first particular line to be executed first, if there are no errors, then only it can go to the next line. Compiler, it is not like that. When the 10 lines of code is there, it completely scans the 10 lines of code and it is going to execute. Interpreter, it is not like that. First execution of the first line, then it will go to the next line. So interpreter, it takes less amount of time to analyze the source code, but the overall execution time is slower. See, overall execution time is slower because whenever the particular set by set instructions is going to take place, overall execution is going to be becoming slower. But debugging, finding the errors is easy in the interpreter, because if I have the error in the first line, I am going to debug the first line, then only I can go to the second line. But in the compiler, all the 10 lines of code is going to be taken at one shot and it is going to give the errors. It's going to be difficult to debug when you are going to use the compiler. And in the interpreter, there is no intermediate object code is generated. Later I am going to discuss the programming language, then I will show you what is the particular object code is about. So for the examples of the interpreter, which is going to use the interpreter for the compilation, is Python, Ruby. And compiler, which programming languages are going to use the compiler, is C, C++. So the C and C++ is going to use the compilers. In this particular sessions, we will be using Microsoft Visual Studio 2013 compiler. So let's get started with our Hello World program. So this is nothing but Visual Studio 2013. So to create the particular project, go to File, New, Project. So your project is going to be created. Select here Visual C++, then empty project. You can give name to your project. Okay. First, let me write my first CPP, my first C++. Okay. Then your project will be created. Then for your project, you are going to add the CPP files, C++ files. So the C++ files where you are going to add in the source folder. Right click on the source folder. Click on add new item. Then C++. It is asking which file you want to create for this project. You just select .cpp, C++. Add. This will be added to your project, my first CPP. So let's get started with the basic structure. So in this particular C++ program, you are going to get started with the header file. Hash include IO stream. So hash is nothing but whatever the particular preprocessor directives are there, then you are going to get started with the hash. IO stream is nothing but input output stream. Then you have using namespace std. So when you are using Microsoft compiler, then you need this extra statement using namespace std. Namespace is a collection of elements. When I am going to discuss the functions, I will just give the detailed explanation of what is this namespace. Right now think that this is the additional statement which when you are going to use the Microsoft Visual Studio compiler, you are going to add this particular statement, and whatever you are going to use in this particular keywords, this is going to be acting as an interface with your program and the input output stream. Okay, your program compiler is going to start execution from int main. So int is nothing but return type. Main is a function. Later on I will be telling function should return the value. Now right now by default I am taking the integer. So function is nothing but main. Whatever I am writing in this flower brackets, that's going to be called as a block. So in this block you are going to write the set of instructions. Whatever the logic you want to implement, that particular logic should be enclosed in this particular block. So now I want to execute Hello World program. In the console, in the output, when I run this particular program, I want to see Hello World. Then how I am going to execute? This cout Hello World. So cout is nothing but console output. When you run this particular program, you will be getting one black screen. In that you will be able to see Hello World. Let's run this program. This is the particular icon where you are going to click this particular to run this particular program, or you can directly press F5. It is going to do the same function. Okay, there is particular window which is coming and which is going. That's nothing but your program has executed, but you are not able to see. So to hold the console output, there is one extra statement. You need to write system pass. So this particular statement is going to hold the console output. Let's run the program. Okay, it is showing Hello World. To maximize this one, you can go to properties, you can increase the font size. Okay, now you are able to see Hello World. Hello World in one line. If you want the Hello World and press any to come to the next line, then what you are going to do? You are going to use the end of line. Here, ENDL. ENDL is nothing but end of the line. So when you run this particular program, you will be able to see Hello World. And the particular press any key, the cursor is blinking at next line. Okay, so this is about console output. Okay, in the next session I will be discussing what is console input. Okay, thank you.